Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Peachy and this channel is all about my Sylvanian Families collection. Today's video is going to be another chatty one. It's the 40th anniversary of Sylvanian Families next year, so 2025, and I've been thinking a lot, like probably too much, about the things that I would like to see released for the 40th anniversary. So this video is going to be my top 10 kind of wish list or manifestations for things that I would like to see for the 40th anniversary. They're not in any sort of particular order. I was just kind of had a notepad and was writing things down as I kind of thought of them over a period of time. And I've got up to 10 now, so I thought, hey, let's do a video. I'm really excited for the 40th anniversary. The last big anniversary we had was the 35th, and we got some really cool things for that. And I'm hoping that the 40th will be maybe even bigger. That would be really cool. I'm trying to downplay my expectations though, so it's not disappointing if we don't get loads of cool stuff. This list is probably quite ambitious and unrealistic, but I thought it was a bit of fun. So let's get started. So the first thing I wrote down on my list was I'd really like to see Epoch restart the Sylvanian Families fan club with the exclusive member gifts, with the kind of monthly or quarterly or whatever it is magazine, with the stories and the activities and things like that. I think it's such a shame that the fan club was ended. It was a really nice thing to kind of feel a part of, and the exclusive gifts were great. They were usually of quite a nice quality or just in outfits and things that you wouldn't usually get. Specifically, I would like the fan club to be more like it was in the Flare era, but that's probably a step too far, but it would just be nice to have the fan club back. So the second thing that I wrote down on my list is I would love if they did a full release of the Soyokaze cat family. So this family currently has a sister figure and a baby figure released, but they have not released the rest of the family. There is a prototype family and you can see them, I think it's in the museum at Grimpa theme park. And if they released this family, that would be my whole 40th anniversary made. I would absolutely love that. They haven't released a regional exclusive family for a while, so that seems like something they could definitely do. There's cat molds already in the range, so they wouldn't have to come up with a new mold or anything. The Soyokaze cat family also looks very, very similar to the Keats cat family, which is a ever popular family in the range, so I have no doubt that it would sell extremely well. Number 3, and this one is probably completely insane and absurd, but these chickens! These bloomin' chickens that were prototyped in the Tomy era never got a release, and I have wanted them for so long. At this point, I think I'd take any chickens, but these ones look very much like they're based on the duck mold, and the ducks are some of my favourite molds in the range. If they released these chickens, I would lose my mind. I love them, they're so cute. And obviously this is a very grainy picture because they were a prototype. They never kind of went further than a prototype. Just some variation of chickens. Please, Epoch, please just give me Sylvanian Families chickens. So the fourth thing I've got on my list is that I'd really like them to do a vintage theme for the summer Coogi. So every August, or at least for the last 4 years now, we've got a Coogi or lottery in the summer with a particular theme, and I would really, really love if they went with a vintage theme, either with the accessories or the families or both. A lot of my older families, it's the babies who are the most worn because they're the ones I used to play with the most. So for my collection, I'd really like to get some of the older families' babies, and the summer Coogi seems like a really good way to do that because it's usually quite baby and children focused. You don't tend to get too many adult figures in those Coogis. I mean, I'm not quite sure what this could look like, but I'm thinking like the Timber Tops, the Evergreens, some of those really original families, and just having them appear in the Coogi with a kind of vintage woodlandy kind of theme. This one's probably quite unlikely, but it would be cool. A fifth on my list, I have a reissue of Vintage Families from the start of the range. Now this one is probably the most likely thing to happen, I would say. I would be quite surprised if we don't get any of the original families re-released. For the 35th we got the moles. The one I would really like is the Wildwoods, as my Wildwood family are from the 80s and they are probably my most worn figures in terms of like flocking damage and stuff, the babies particularly. They could maybe do a poll or something where we all vote and then the winner of that poll gets re-released. I mean, it feels a bit late in the day to be doing a poll now, but I can't remember when the popularity poll for the 35th anniversary was held. I can't remember whether that was during the 35th anniversary year and then the releases came after, or it was the year prior and then the releases came out for the 35th. If you can remember, please let me know in the comments because I really cannot recall. I remember voting in it, but I can't remember when. But I figure we're going to probably get at least one reissue of Vintage Family, which would be really cool, especially for newer collectors who didn't get to get them either at the time or when they were released in the kind of early 2000s, 2010s, because some of these families haven't seen a reissue for a very long time now. Then number 6 on my list kind of follows on from the one we just talked about, and that is a reissue of Vintage Buildings. So the canal boat from the Tomy era, that had a re-release lately through the Sylvanian Families online shop and official outlets. We've also seen some of the Flair era buildings and vehicles being reissued. The one I would really like is the old 80s, 90s era watermill. That's very kind of selfish and extremely unlikely to happen. They'll probably do something maybe like the windmill. That would be nice to see come back in the range, the old mill. Maybe a new edition of the very oldest houses. But it would be nice to keep that trend of vintage buildings getting re-releases going. And maybe they could release few next year into like a little mini range. That would be cool. Number 7 on my list carries on with the theme of re-releases or reissues, and I've got down that I would love to see a reissue of the Urban Life Families, specifically the Solitaire Siamese cat family if we had to pick one, but it would be nice to see a series of those get reissues. Those families are absolutely beautiful, as was the packaging that they came in. Really quite expensive to buy them now. More so than some of the other older families, I think, because maybe they're a bit rarer or the outfits are a bit more detailed, so maybe they were more expensive at the time. I'm not sure, but there seems to be more scarcity with those Urban Life Families, especially because they only really saw a release in Japan. So seeing one or a handful or all of those Urban Life Families get a reissue, even if it's over time, so they start it next year and then they bring out maybe, I don't know, 1 a year, 2 a year. But it would be really lovely to see those again, especially as we haven't seen members of those families for quite some time as well now. Then number 8 on my list is bringing back grandparent figures. So I'm not necessarily meaning re-releasing grandparents that already exist in the range, though that would be absolutely fine with me as well. I'm thinking more along the lines of adding grandparents back into families. So we've had Chocolate Rabbit grandparents, but they're the only grandparents we've seen for ages and ages. I'm thinking Checkers Bulldog grandparents, Latte Cat grandparents, Flora Rabbit grandparents. Just grandparents for some of the families that are active in the range now. I really like the grandparent figures. I like that they're not just the mother and father figures repurposed. They are a different mould, slightly smaller than the mother and father figures. I like that they add more depth to the family, more generations, and it makes those families larger as well. And you could also have them with some really nice accessories. So there are a couple of sets that I know were released in the Flair range called Grandmother at Home and Grandfather at Home, and they both came with some really unique accessories. Like the grandmother came with a sewing box and like a little ball of wool so she could be doing some knitting. She had a rocking chair and like a side table and things, and the grandpa came with a golf set so that he could go golfing. And more sets like that would be really cool. So either having them in the duo set like we're used to, or having them in those kind of family life sets. I just think that could bring some nice variety into the range. The 9th thing I had written down on my list is I would really like to see a range of scenery pieces. So I'm thinking like trees and bushes, maybe grass mats, things that could be used in setups and scenes, a bit like what they use in their stock imagery. Just to have some trees, bushes, etc., that are definitely scaled for Sylvanians would be really nice. You can get these kind of things under Dolls House brands, but it's always a bit hit and miss with Dolls House items as to whether they're going to be scaled correctly. So to have pieces that you know are custom made for the Sylvanian families, you know that they're going to be the right scale, you know that they're going to look good in the photos, would be really cool. It would also be a nice nod to the more adult collectors. And then the last thing I've written down on my list, so number 10, I would like to see an updated encyclopedia of the range. So the best thing I've found to date is a book that I've shown in my videos a few times called the Exhibition Encyclopedia, but that stops in, I think it's 2017 that book goes up to. So I'd like one that goes all the way up to date, and I would really love one that includes the UK range, the Europe range, the US, worldwide, just chapters on everything. To have a book that has every single product ever released would be amazing. It's probably very unlikely to happen because I doubt that that kind of history exists, being as other brands were distributing. I don't know what Epoch's archives are like, whether they have all that stuff on file or not, but to have an encyclopedia with every single item in would be incredible. I would buy that in a heartbeat. It would just be so useful when you're trying to research things. And that's everything I've got written down so far. I'm sure I will add more to this list because we've still got a bit of time left until we're into the 40th anniversary. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you're really hoping for the 40th anniversary, or if any of these kind of resonated with you. But that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye for now.